In the last couple weeks, we have reviewed a couple campaign videos, and I do that both from point of view of my own beliefs and opinions and preferences, which are very likely yours as well, but I also do it as someone who used to write and produce campaign videos, so I do it as a kind of combination political review and quality review or aesthetic review. And so far, I've looked at the videos of Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg. And now I'm going to look at a video, at least to begin with. We'll see how much we get through. Maybe we'll look at two. But to begin with, I want to do something a little different and look at a video from someone who's a lot closer politically to me. Those two guys both staked out a kind of centrist space. But I want to now look at a video of someone who is, I'm not with her on everything, but on a number of issues, she's much closer to my own viewpoint than anyone else's, and that's Elizabeth Warren. Senator Elizabeth Warren is, of course, one of the major candidates for president. I don't understand why she isn't polling way up at the top, but I'll get into that maybe as we review her campaign announcement video. So let's go ahead and start to play it now. And as before, when I have something to say, I'll stop it and interrupt it. And as before, if my interruptions are driving you nuts, just go on the internet and find it. But anyway, let's give it a shot. Let's listen to the announcement video from when Elizabeth Warren launched her exploratory committee, which is the ritual first step in running for president.
Country, if you work hard and play by the rules, you ought to be able to take care of yourself and the people you love.
We're seeing old videos of her as a mom, a young mom.
This should be true for everyone. Growing up in Oklahoma, that promise came through for me and my family.
Okay, let me stop it for a second. So what she does here, and the first couple seconds got clipped, but you get the gist, is what she's doing here is the standard political bio thing, in a way, of establishing rapport with the viewer, with the pictures of her as a young mom, establishing her humanness, establishing her warmth, and basically saying, I'm one of you, right? It's one of those. Now that is a standard political campaign video move, and I'd be more inclined to knock it if it weren't for the fact that there's a little difference between Elizabeth Warren and most other candidates for president this country has seen. And that, of course, is not a little difference at all, is that she's a woman. So what she has to do here, given the sexism that still exists in our country, is somehow establish her femininity, which is why I think she emphasizes herself with a very small child and a first birthday cake and the candle and all that. It's a sad fact, but I think it's the right move on her part. It's a sad fact that she has to do that. I think it's the right thing to do it. So she establishes both her relatability and the fact that she's not challenging gender norms too much. Now, it's fine with me and probably with you if she does, but that's the calculation she and her advisors made, and they're probably right. So let's keep going.
Military, and I was still just a kid. My daddy had a heart attack and couldn't work. My mom found a minimum wage job at Sears, and that job saved our house and our family.
Okay, I'll stop again.
My daddy ended up...
And I'm sorry to interrupt it so quickly, but there's a lot packed in here, and I think you might be interested. One is she quickly says that her father and brothers were in the military. So number one, establishes her military bona fides, and covers the fact that to traditional conservative Americans, she wouldn't be expected to join the military herself. So she kind of touches that base with her father. Then she talks about her daddy's heart attack. And by the way, I've met her several times, and that is how she talks. So she's not putting on, I know I wrote when Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were debating in 2008, that my prediction for the debate was G's would be dropped. That we're walking, that both of them were I think self-consciously and artificially trying to sound more folksy by dropping their G's. But this is in fact the way that Elizabeth Warren talks. So let's keep going.
as a janitor, but he raised a daughter who got to be a public school teacher, a law professor, and a senator. We got a real opportunity to build something.
Okay,
Working
stop
families
again.
today face-
So she's saying her mom had to work as a single mom when her daddy passed away, and it was a terrible story, and they went through a lot. And she's setting up something important here. So she's setting up the arc of how she came from this challenged and difficult background, became a teacher, and then managed to become a Harvard professor, attorney, and now, of course, senator from the United States. So let's for the United States. So let's keep going.
Face a lot tougher path than my family did. And families of color face a path that is steeper and rockier, a path made even harder by the impact of generations of discrimination. I've spent my career getting to the bottom of why America's promise works for some families, but others who work just as hard slip through the cracks into disaster.
So let's stop again. So what she did, and if you're listening on the radio, not watching on Free Speech TV, well then shame on you, first of all. But secondly, what she did was she showed that it's much harder to get the kind of publicly funded opportunities for advancement that she got. It's much harder to get those now. She also pointed out visually as well as verbally the wealth gap between black and white families, the opportunity gap between black and white families, and did something very clever in that last sentence, or very important in a good way, which is why do people, both of whom work hard to get ahead, have difficulty advancing? That's very deep, that's a sort of Horatio Alger ethos that if you work hard, and it's very embedded in Democratic Party rhetoric, even the most conservative Democrats, especially perhaps the most conservative Democrats, if you work hard and play by the rules, you should get ahead. So she's throwing that in. She's challenging the idea that people who are struggling financially or who are poor are there because of their own shortcomings. She's saying they work hard, they just don't get ahead. So let's keep going.
It is terrifying. These aren't cracks that families are falling into, they're traps. America's middle class is under attack. How did we get here? Billionaires and big corporations decided they wanted more of the pie, and they enlisted politicians to cut them a fatter slice. They crippled unions so no one could stop them.
We're going to turn the bull loose.
Dismantled the financial rules meant to keep us safe after the Great Depression, and cut their own taxes so they paid less than their secretaries and janitors.
It's time to write the rules for the middle class.
After Wall
Okay,
Street
I will stop
crashed, our
again.
economy-
Good, quick summary of what went wrong with the American economy, and good narrative building, because she's pointing out an enemy. And every story has a protagonist and an antagonist. You're the protagonist. The antagonist is the billionaire class. So let's keep going.
In 2008, I left the classroom to go to Washington and confront the broken system head on.
Elizabeth Warren, apparently not afraid to tangle with Wall Street.
Elizabeth Warren is heading into the Lion's Den.
Mrs. Warren goes to Washington.
We created America's first consumer watchdog to hold the big banks
A
accountable.
woman who has warned of another meltdown if Washington doesn't straighten up.
I never thought I'd run for office, not in a million years. But when Republican senators tried to sabotage the reforms and run me out of town, I went back to Massachusetts and ran against one of them. And I beat him.
And we are going to turn Washington back to the people.
Today, corruption is poisoning our democracy. Politicians look the other way while big insurance companies deny patients life-saving coverage, while big banks rip off consumers, and while big oil companies destroy this planet. Our government's supposed to work for all of us, but instead, it has become a tool for the wealthy and well-connected. The whole scam is propped up by an echo chamber of fear and hate, designed to distract and divide us.
Okay, we're going to have to weigh in here, and I guess this gives me a chance to close with what I think is my major criticism of this piece, because we're not done yet, and we should be done. It's a long video, and if there's anything, any message that you need to take away from it, it's that she packed so much into the first 2 minutes. She should have essentially left it there and then said, this is why I'm running for president. So I think she did a good job. I can't give her an A+, but it gets a lot of excellent points across, and it just drives me nuts that if you're a woman, you're not considered likable because, gosh darn it, I like her.